Welcome to the Motoring Podcast, a Hyundai i20 Premium Special Edition. Hello, I'm Alan.
Hello, I'm Andrew. An i20 Premium. Ooh, that sounds posh.
Yes, well, it's like well, I don't know. Given the level of poshness, anyway. So, what is a Hyundai i20, let alone a premium one? Obviously, it's Hyundai's B-segment hatchback. As you can tell by the name, it's bigger than an i10, but smaller than an i30.
Ooh.
So yes, logical model naming is us when it comes to Hyundai hatchbacks. It's segment, so that's Fiesta size.
Yep.
Polo size, Fiesta size, really.
Yeah.
These days, reasonable, affordable cars for normal people, which I'm sure is something that Hyundai really don't want me to say.
It's all right, they can run with it. We'll let them have that one for free.
Really, I think they're more likely to budge me to death because they're trying to be all sort of lifestyle-y and stuff. At least this isn't out before I see them. Currently here in the UK, the i20 is available with one engine and power output. It is a 3-cylinder 1.0 48V mild hybrid, putting out a 100 metric horsepowers. The 48V not being the number of valves on that 3-cylinder engine, because that would be a bit of a squeeze. It is a 48-volt mild hybrid. More on that later in the show. There are 3 trim levels available, all of which, funnily enough, come with that one engine. SE Connect, Premium, and Ultimate in sort of ascending level of amount of kit you get. Funnily enough, Ultimate is at the top.
Okay, so Premium is the mid pack.
Premium is the mid pack.
Okay.
So that's what I add, is the mid pack.
Just a quick question, just a slight digress.
Mm-hmm.
Is that expected to be their bestseller, do you think?
I don't know, but I would imagine it is, yes.
Yeah, okay.
I would not be surprised if it is. Especially in the manual, which is the one I had. All 3 trims are available with either manual gearbox or a DCT automated manual, which is the same manual gearbox plus stuff. So it's essentially the same gearbox, just automated.
Mm-hmm.
Which has just suddenly made me think about how many gears it has. No, pardon me, 6 speeds. I had this sudden flash in my mind that it was 5-speed, but no, that's my imagination just there. So yes, all trims available with manual gearbox or a DCT or automated manual. Prices start from £18,575 for the SE Connect manual and end at £23,325 for an Ultimate with DSG right at the moment.
That seems like that's sort of around the right price or the market price for that type of size of vehicle.
So the Premium Plus metallic paint, I'm about to come on to the colours, but plus metallic paint comes in at $21,550. That on Hyundai's own PCP deal, just leaving everything as it was with about £6,500 down and not quite 0%, comes in at just under £250 a month. 225, 230.
That's not bad
a month for that spec, including the paint.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of the paint, Polar White comes as standard. Anything else is £550 and £500 more if you want the two-tone look with a black roof, depending on the spec level that you've chosen. The colours include Aurora Grey, which is grey, Phantom Black, which is black, Dragon Red, which is a nice red, Brass, which is a kind of metallic beige.
Okay.
Hearing aidy kind of colour. Sleek Silver, Aqua Turquoise.
Sorry, just to go back though, Sleek Silver, is that like a lighter grey or is it silver?
It's silver. I'm just giving in on that one. It's silver. And Aqua Turquoise, which funnily enough is a sort of metallic turquoisey colour and kind of funky and summery and quite, it's actually quite a nice colour. And last but not least, Intense Blue, which was the colour of the press car I had. It's a really, really nice colour. It's a sort of really deep inky blue I always think of.
Mm-hmm.
When I say inky, I don't mean sort of fancy fountain pen ink. I do mean, oops, we've split a biro. And you know that kind of biro blue?
Yeah.
When it's still wet, before it's actually dried into the paper, it's that kind of colour.
Okay.
Which is really nice, I think, despite my slightly demeaning description, I do really like it. It's a really nice colour. There will be an N-line model, so that's normal but tweaked the suspension and a bit more power in this case, with a 120 brake version of the same engine, still as a mild hybrid. That should be relatively nippy. That should be quite pleasant. And that'll be from £22,150 for the manual. And you will be able to have a DSG on that anyway. And obviously at the top of the range is the i20N with 204 horsepower.
Nice.
From a mere £25,000. And I'm not being sarcastic when I say mere. I love the fact that you can go out and you can buy a standard SE Connect one, or for not an awful lot more, relatively speaking, you can go out and buy one with more than twice the power.
Yes.
As well.
And I've heard, well, it seems like people are quite positive about it who've tried them so far.
Yes. At least one magazine has awarded many awards. But we'll see, because I've got my name down to drive one very shortly. So it's going to be very interesting comparing that to one with half the power. I think it's going to be quite interesting. Both the comparison and driving the N.
Mm-hmm.
Exterior. Well, yeah, it's a B-segment hatchback. It's compact, it's 5-door. It's got that Hyundai family look. At the front, there's a sort of large, low grille made of irregular quadrilaterals. They're not quite kite shapes. And they're definitely not diamonds. So yeah, sorry. Back to the maths class there. Zigzag slashes down the side, and then really kind of cool zigzaggy rear lights that are joined by a thin Heckerblende. I think that's how you pronounce it. At this point, I was expecting someone to ask me what a Heckerblende was.
What is a Heckerblende?
It's the reflective strip that joins the lights
on
the back of the car. It's a German word.
Okay. Well, I just want to say,
yeah,
because I'm looking at the photographs you've thrown in for us to look at while you describe things. I was to say I am incredibly pleased with the fuel filler cap cover.
Oh, I knew you'd pick up on that. Because
it's been several years since I've had a big old moan about how there was one particular car was dreadfully positioned. It didn't line up with anything. And this one does wonderfully. And I am delighted to see that. Someone has taken the time and gone, that will work there. And we will make this.
The whole of the outside of this car is really, really nicely done. Even if you don't like it, when you stand there and you start looking at it in detail and just the way different surfaces seem to meet, and I'm sure that our designer friends will probably disagree with me, but the way that surfaces meet or intentionally don't meet, and the way that it moves from one material to the next is really nicely done. There's a chrome trim that goes up at the bottom of the glass house.
Mm-hmm.
And it sort of goes up and then it goes into, there's a third window. It's a 3 light on the side. So you've got the front window, the rear window, and then you've got another window that's in the C-pillar.
Yeah.
And there's a chrome strip that goes around there and kind of ticks up the way. But the way that each of those bits of trim match up, there is a well-known electric vehicle manufacturer that cannot do that.
Yeah.
This is B-segment hatchback that people are going to go out and just buy.
Mm.
People who don't really notice or care about this kind of stuff, and you look at it and you go, somebody's really put effort into that, and it's nice. It's worth mentioning just how neatly done that all of that is. Those different pieces coming together to kind of form one surface and one piece.
That sort of philosophy or the way of doing things reminds me of the Tucsons that we had recently. We found that there, and this is a continuation of that. It seems like the design language incorporates we're actually going to pay attention to where we're putting things and
look
lines.
At the rear lights. So the picture of the sort of rear 3/4 that I put in there is one that I think is shared on Instagram. It seems like so long since I've shared anything on Instagram. But that sort of Z flash that's in the rear light that goes from the side, and it's a kind of, you can see how somebody was sketching that, and they just wanted this zigzag light whenever they were doing I don't know how early pencil sketches or first sketches into the computer, very freehand ones, and somehow that's made it all the way through. The rationalization, the ability to manufacture, all that stuff. And there's still this kind of cool Z flash that goes up, joins the other side, which of course is the mirror image Z flash. And that's really funky. It's just nice. It's just really cleverly well resolved. The thing is, you forget. So I sat down to do this, and my initial notes said, yeah, it just looks like a B segment hatch that you would expect from Hyundai, and that you don't it's how you imagine a B segment hatch. It's good looking, but that's it. And then I opened up the pictures and I thought, no, I'd forgotten how good looking this is.
Mm.
It only takes a couple of minutes, but it's really, whenever you look, more detail.
But like with the Hyundai, with the Tucson, I'm not a fan of everything that's been done, but I like, one, the fact they did it and they went for it. And the other point is all these lines, all the angles, they are deliberate and with intention. Whereas we look at some other manufacturers at the moment, particularly some of the premium ones, and you look at the design and you go, there was no intention there, was there? It's just there.
But I like that stuff's been done. That somebody sort of drew it and they drew it with the body kit built in. So if you look at the front, there's a gloss black bit at the bottom with two little bits coming out, which is a spoiler. It's not. It looks like a splitter.
Yeah,
it looks like a splitter on a race car. And you go around to the back, and you realise that there's a pseudo diffuser. There's another gloss black piece at the bottom of the back bumper, which 90% of people will never notice.
No.
And it's got little ridges that come down like a little diffuser. And it can't do anything. There's no chance it can do anything. There's nothing it'll do to help airflow. But they did it. It doesn't cost it's a neocarnism. Good design doesn't really cost money. They didn't need to do this stuff, but they did, and it makes it funky.
Yeah, exactly. What they've obviously deliberately done this, and for a tiny proportion of the population, we will notice that, and we will smile that they have done that. And as you say, most people won't notice, or just sort of go, "Oh yeah, there's some lines there," but won't know what it represents or anything, or what it's meant to show, and won't care. But even though they know that there's only a small portion of the population will notice that and smile, they still went for it, and I admire that a lot.
Yeah, me too, and me too. Especially when it's a company that is a mass. It is very much a mass-producing company. It's not Hyundai aren't a company that you generally think of as, doing stuff for a small. I have to say that. I was about to say something. It's complete rubbish. Complete rubbish. But they're not. You think, oh, gee, I am going to get so lynched. You think of Hyundai, you think, well, they're people who just make cars. Traditionally in the UK, make cars for old people. That's been changing a lot over the last time.
That ilk, yes.
But when you look at stuff like this, you think, no, that's not the case.
But even in the lifetime of this podcast, there has been a massive sea change in how they have approached things. It feels like there was a long-term plan, and I know we're sounding very gushing here. And
well, Andrew is anyway, yeah.
Whilst I don't agree with what I'm mostly talking about is the fact that the corporation has done this, not whether I like this the exact execution or whether I am glowing about everything they do or anything like that, but there is clearly a plan, and they have got a long-term strategy that they are moving through, and that I really admire, because we look at other companies, particularly OEMs, and you go, what is the plan? What is the strategy? What are you doing in 5 years? Because I don't know what you're doing now.
There was something else we were talking about recently, and we were saying, well, they don't tend to. It was Genesis, wasn't it? It was all about Genesis. I'm saying, well, they don't tend to do anything that they don't have a plan to deliver on properly. Just doesn't seem to happen. So, anyway, should we move on from that?
Yes, we've gushed a lot here. What else on the exterior?
I don't particularly like the alloy wheels. There we go. Is that balance?
Right.
Is that balance? No, again, they're a little bit fussy, but they're much better than the i10 inline ones, which I had a good old grump about previously. They are a bit fussy, but that's just what Hyundai seem to do with alloy wheels at the minute. They're black, they've got polished highlights. They're all right, but they are just. My thing with alloy wheels is I don't like cleaning them, so I don't want loads and loads and loads of spokes. That's really what it comes down to. The only thing I've seen that's contentious about the i20 is some people take real umbrage with the gloss black panel between the bottom of the rear windscreen and the heck blend and the rear lights, and they say, oh, that should really be body coloured. Personally, I don't care. I quite like the black, to be honest, because it does make it look like you've got kind of funky, multi-dimensional rear window, even though it isn't. I don't have an issue with it. I don't care.
No,
there you go.
No, I don't think that's.
I mentioned something merely to say that I didn't care about it. Gosh, it could almost be Twitter, couldn't it? Moving as we do here on the Motoring Podcast into the interior, then let's start at the back as is traditional. Obviously, it's 5-door hatchback, so in the back is you open the hatch. There's a dual height floor with tie downs, again, as with the Tucson we talked about recently, and others you can adjust the height with kind of one hand by just where you slide the floor in. There's not much of an undercroft, and I wouldn't really want to put stuff in there because that rear wheel well is full of the battery for the mild hybrid.
Oh, okay.
So there's just a big sort of black box with thick cables coming out of it and sort of warning symbols on, and you think, no, maybe not put anything metal too close to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not a big deal.
How many inflatable dinosaurs fit in the boot, though?
Have you not noticed inflatable dinosaurs in the boot of all the recent cars?
Yeah, I know, but this is your measurement.
Yeah, inflatable dinosaur is pretty good in the inflatable dinosaur scale. He can lie down quite happily, but it's not quite deep enough for him to stand up.
Okay.
But he is about 2 feet high, so it's quite a deep boot before he can stand up, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, it does look a decent size.
Yeah, what is cool, though, is that if you wanted to stand up in the boot when you're driving around, because he's a bit taller than the amount of space there is with the parcel shelf in place, then you don't actually have to completely remove the parcel shelf. What you do is you disconnect it from the boot lid, and then you can slide it down 2 slots, so it runs down parallel to the back of the back seat.
Okay, yeah.
If you've gone, you bought plants or you bought something bulky or a box that's just too tall, a lamp or something, then you need to carry those around, but you didn't realize it was going to be just a bit big, then you can still do that, and you don't have to have a parcel shelf rattling around loose. It slots neatly into it and stores down the back of the 60/40 split rear seat.
Clever. Like that.
It is. It's really neat. And yeah, you don't see something forever and then a whole bunch of them come along at once. So I haven't seen it. I had 2 cars on the trot with it. So yeah. Back seat, speaking of which, as I said, 60/40 split. Belts for 3. It's a B segment hatch. Unless people are very small, you don't really want 3 of them abreast for too long in the back. But it's perfectly fine for 2. Knees are a little bit squashed into the back of the front seats. If I'm doing the traditional Mojo sitting behind myself test, and it's not bad headroom wise or anything. It's perfect, for the size of car. It's what you'd expect. It's not an S-Class Merc, but it's a little car.
Yep.
In the back, storage wise, there's bottle holders in each rear door. There's a little kind of mobile phone size slot in the back of the sort of the sort of cubby and armrest for the front seat passengers, or the driver and the front seat passenger. And there's also a 12-volt socket there as well.
Okay. There's pockets in the back of the driver's seat, the front seats as well.
Yes, there are. Well spotted, that man. I missed that out of my notes just to test you.
Oh, glad I passed.
Keep up the good work. Up front it's pretty grown up, actually. The materials, if you're a dash top grappler, then you could quite easily go, wow, these are they're not as it's not as premium as a Volkswagen or whatever it is that you're going to do or say that makes you that way. Then you could say, well, actually, we could have better quality plastics, and you could have this, and you could have that, and you could have the next thing. You could, but you would also have to pay more for it. So for, as I say, B segment hatch, perfectly fine. No need to get upset over any particularly awful plastics there. One of the things that there is in this is, remember when I've spoken about the i10 before, both on the launch and for the i10 N-Line, the i10 is absolutely plastered with hexagons. There are more hexagons than there are in your average beehive. In the i20, they've moved away from hexagons inside. And what they've gone for instead are strakes. So the dashboard is like a 1980s Ferrari. Okay. and the front door panels and everything. So it's a good way to liven up what would otherwise be dull panels of cheapish plastic, to be perfectly frank. And it just brightens up. So there's strakes that go the full width of the dashboard and integrate the air vents, the strakes down the doors, down the parcel bits. The seat fabric in this spec is all sort of horizontal lines. So it's kind of cool. If you get in close and you make it a little bit abstract, it is very artistic. You start to get a bit like the Guggenheim in New York City type of vibe going on there. But it's kind of cool. It's just interesting. It costs them next to sod all to do, but it livens it up, and it just gives interest in places that would otherwise look cheap and very, very bare otherwise. That said, up front, if you're in the driving seat looking forward, then you're met not with one separate binnacle and then an iPad poking out the top of the dashboard, or a phablet of some, other phablets are available, poking out of the top of the dashboard, but with one piece that goes right the way across, made up of a couple of different screens. So the binnacle itself is electronic, all electronic, not a hybrid of the two. And that has pretty much the same graphics as you'd see on the Tucson.
Okay.
So you get the same quality of display, or you seem to get the same quality of display at this premium spec i20 as you do much further up the Hyundai range as well. And then towards the middle is 10.25 inch widescreen. And it is particularly wide. So it's your standard Apple CarPlay plus about another 3 inches.
Oh, right. Okay.
Onto the side, where you can choose to have something different showing. So I actually quite like the analog clock, because I do like an analog clock in a car dash. So I was able to configure that, and it turns out that it was the same. It ended up with the same layout as the Lexus I had a few weeks later, but I could have had a number of other things instead. My music or whatever there was that you could display that wasn't going to clash with the CarPlay.
Okay.
Setup or whatever you have in there. Underneath that massive screen, there's a row of buttons to let you choose which mode you want, or whether you want to go back to the sort of home screen. When I say buttons, they are the sort of touch sensitive, smooth things, but they were a slightly satin finish, so at least they didn't show the fingerprints.
Oh, yes.
And they also seem to work when you press on them, which is not always a given with those. Vents below that built into those strakes across the dash. Push buttons and switches for the single zone climate control as well.
Okay.
Before we got to the cubby tray, there's a pair of USB ports and an 80-watt 12-volt socket as well.
Cool.
Moving back from the cubby, just ahead of the gear stick, buttons for the heated seats, the parking camera, parking sensors. This is had only on the rear in this, and also the drive mode. So you could choose from comfort, eco, and sport. And surprise, surprise, the colors of the dash binnacle changed in the usual and expected manner. Difference otherwise wasn't that much. Eco dulled the throttle. Sport just sort of made everything red. I don't know. You've got 100 brake. Okay, there's not a lot of sport to be had at that point.
Yeah. So I presume you, after seeing that it did things and there may or may not have been a change, just left it in comfort?
Yeah, I just left it standard on.
Yeah.
Usual Alan approach of, yeah, well, that seems to make not much difference at all, so I'll just leave it where it is.
Yeah.
It's worth mentioning this is quite an odd spec. You get cloth seats, but you also get heated cloth seats. And you need a key and you have to press the buttons on the key to unlock the car. And then you need to flick out the key from the flicky key, insert it into the side of the steering column and turn it in order to start the car.
Did they not realise it's the future and we are to just be in there and press a button and everything happens?
But you get a heated steering wheel, Andrew.
Ugh.
Which I don't like. Somebody who's sort of generally warm anyway. Heated steering wheels I just don't get them.
No, they're not.
They are as a way to get my palms sweaty, and not for reasons anything like that. I just don't like them. I just don't. I just don't need them really. My circulation is good enough that I don't need that. So yeah, it's just a rather odd spec at that point. And of course, you get all the standard lane departure warning and all that kind of stuff as well.
Okay.
Oh, there's buttons on the steering wheel too, but I've forgotten quite what the layout was.
It'll be the typical thing that on the left-hand side is the phone and adjusting through the media things, and on the right-hand side will be driver stuff.
Yeah. It's the same as the Tucson was anyway. It's all the usual stuff.
I noticed from the pictures that the interior is two-tone as well. That helps lift.
Yeah, it does. So it's quite a sort of the plastics lower down the dash are relatively pale grey, and then there's a sort of mid grey higher up, which is good. It lifts the interior a bit. It stops it being the black hole of Calcutta, and it makes quite a decent.
Do you think they'll stand up to use, or will they show marks, do you think?
I don't know. I suspect the bottoms of the rear doors may show marks, but then it's dark plastics where you should really be rubbing or hitting your feet or any other part of your anatomy.
So basically we just bear that in mind.
As long as you're not an idiot, they should be fine.
Yeah.
I don't see why they would get too marked given where they are.
Take care and clean them.
It's not as if it's cream leather, cream armrests or a cream steering wheel or any of the major touch points. All the major touch points are a darker color, so you should be okay majority of the time.
Cool.
Driving it, I went on a journey with this car, a metaphorical journey,
figuratively as well as emotionally.
I did as well as literally. I did quite a few miles in this car actually. There was a good. I did over 300 miles, which, to be honest, that used to be nothing in a press car, but is now a little bit of an achievement. I actually had to put fuel in it.
Oh, my word.
I know.
I hope you wrote to complain.
I did not write to complain. No. And if people think I'm exaggerating that, there's an awful lot of car reviews get written where the cars have never been refilled in their lives. Not that that's a grumble of ours at all. But yes, I went on a journey as regards the drivability of this car, because I started out following the little lift your foot off, change up a gear, change down a gear symbols.
And
how
long did that last?
2 or 3 days.
Oh wow!
2 days.
My word!
2 days, 2 days getting more and more infuriated each time I drove it.
Because is it like others that we have tried, geared purely for MPG and
WLTP.
Keeping everything down?
Yeah, it's keeping everything down. You're always 3 gears too high. You go to accelerate, it's like, and of course, some of these little engines, they don't have a very wide power band because they're a little engine 3-cylinder car. That's what happens. It's a factor of those, and there's only so much that a mild hybriding them can do.
Yeah.
If you follow the little symbols that tell you when to change up and change down and to lift your foot off and all that kind of stuff, it's blooming awful, frankly. If after a couple of days you go, sod this cannot be right, and you just start ignoring it and driving it on instinct, then actually it's quite a peppy little thing, and it gets you around the place. You're not going to win that many traffic light Grand Prix, not if anyone else is particularly trying. But with conservation of momentum and all these kind of things, you can actually zip along all right. You can hold a speed. Once you're up to a speed, you can easily hold it.
Okay.
One of the big advantages of this is that there was none of that dragging that I found with other mild hybrids recently. I did find that there was a hybrid, the kind of hybrid displays. Where it shows you, you're generating electricity. And it showed when you were generating electricity, but it never showed when you were using the electricity. So it was very difficult for me to find out when that was working or not. And I don't know whether that makes it bad because it just felt like a small engine car, or whether that makes it really, really good because it was completely and utterly seamless. So I'll let you decide at home, listeners. I wasn't. So I went through a whole lot. I was really, really torn about this for quite a while, actually, more so than I normally am. Normally, a mind will be made up relatively quickly. But on this one, it was like, oh, God, oh, no, I don't like it. This is awful. Actually, it's not so bad. Just ignore that bit and it's fine. But then how do I know it's a hybrid? I can't feel any hybridness. But then is that a good thing? Because I could feel that the other ones were a hybrid before and I disliked it. So if this is just feels like a car, then surely feels like a car is how it should feel. Or it's not doing anything and it's all just hocus pocus.
I suppose it depends on whether they make a big thing about the hybridness of it, and then you can't tell there is a hybrid,
It does have a big badge on the side saying 48V. It's about 2 inches long and about an inch high. But then after that, there's not really much hybridness shown anywhere. So I still don't know whether mild hybrids are a marketing thing or not.
I think that time has passed.
What?
I think to really harp on about mild hybrids, that's now like the de facto car. And people talk about plug-in or not plug-in hybrids or EVs.
Yes, agreed. A couple of other things, though. Controls, really, really light if you're in comfort. If you're in sport, they're still really light. Let's be honest. Although compared to my car, then just about everything is light. It drives quite nicely. What it didn't really like was some of the urban assault course around here, moving between the tank traps and the ha-has that have been installed randomly by trucks going over the roads. Everything felt nice and solid at the front, but the rear just felt a little bit. It felt jiggly and unresolved. You know, a terrible problem with the tread shuffle on these hatchbacks. But it just didn't feel. It just didn't feel planted.
Okay.
Whereas other cars in this segment thing have felt better around there. Once you're out on the road, once you're out on the A-roads and things, it felt just fine. On the motorway, it was great. I will confess, the day after I got it, when I was still sort of fighting with the indicator lights, I was on the M3 in a heck of a downpour. And it wasn't a lot of fun there, but that was by virtue of it being a B segment hatchback on a busy motorway when people were far too close. And I did find myself wishing I was still driving the Tucson at that point. But I think I would have felt exactly the same in my own car as well. So yeah, I don't think that can be put down to the i20 in any way, shape or form. Technology-wise, nothing particular, nothing other than the usual mandated stuff. I mean, the entertainment system was an entertainment system. It worked. It played music. It wasn't abnormally awesome or abnormally awful. The CarPlay worked. I didn't try the Android Auto. That widescreen was kind of cool. It was kind of strange that the CarPlay didn't fill out the whole width of the screen. I don't know whether that's a CarPlay restriction or not, but I did like the fact that you could sort of fill something in that extra gap rather than just leaving it black. So I tended to run the analog clock, as I said. Deep in the bowels of the options, for there are many options, you can have all the same sort of atmospheric environmental noise stuff as we got in the Tucson. So yes, you can drive around to the sound of a rainforest or pavement cafe if that's your bag. Personally, I still haven't worked out why you would want to do it. I just find it rather unnerving, to be honest. But it's kind of fun. Don't know. You can drive to church to the sound of a crackling wood fire. It just makes you think that something somewhere is rattling. That was as much as I've found.
Verdict then,
yeah.
I think, really.
It's good value. It's well built. Just ignore the "you should drive like this" lights, and it's a perfectly good car. I mean, it's never going to set your world alight. But would I recommend it to other people who I know aren't into cars and just want a small hatchback? Yes, I would. Would I recommend it to anyone who's slightly enthusiastic? No, I wouldn't. But I would possibly suggest an N-line for people who want a bit more, who might want a little bit more. And I'm very keen to try the N myself. Mm-hmm. So yes, the N might well be the one that I would recommend to enthusiasts, especially at that price point.
Yeah.
But more on the N, I'm sure, before very long. Fingers crossed. So yes, Hyundai i20 Premium there.
Okay, good show.
If you want to know more, don't forget that between now and next time, you can give us any feedback. Share your thoughts to the show at Motoring Podcast on Twitter and Instagram, on Facebook, and on the contact page of motoringpodcast.com, the hub of all our activities. Please don't forget to leave a review and rating on Apple Podcasts or however your podcast app lets you do such a thing. Andrew, if people want to know more, I don't know why they would be asking you, but if they do want to, what's the best way to get in touch?
Best way to get in touch is via Twitter. If you search for Crack Windscreen, you'll find me there. And Alan, if people would like to hear more about the exterior styling and the clever bits that you found around the car, in case they didn't get enough...
I think you've bored them to tears by now, to be honest.
What's the best way to do that personally?
You could use Twitter, where I'm at AJP Bradley. That's BADLEY. We will be back before very long, but until then, I've been Alan Bradley.
I've been Andrew Clues.
And safe motoring.